There's a pattern. A scientist gets too close to something the government doesn't want touched, and then, quietly, cleanly, they're gone. Dead in circumstances that make no sense, or just missing. And every single time, the official version is the same. Suicide, an accident, a breakdown, every time. Look, we're going to go through 3 of these cases today. 3 people who knew things they weren't supposed to know, and what happened to them after. Pay attention to the details. That's always where it falls apart. November 28, 1953, 2 in the morning, New York City. A man in his underwear falls 13 floors from a hotel window and lands dead on the sidewalk below. His name is Frank Olson. He's 43 years old, a husband, a father of 3, and one of the most classified biochemists in the United States government. The official story? Suicide. He was unstable. He jumped. Case closed. Except it wasn't closed, not even close. Here's what they didn't tell you for 22 years. 9 days before his death, Frank Olson was at a secret CIA retreat in rural Maryland, a cabin in the woods, completely off the books. His boss, a man named Sidney Gottlieb, the head of the CIA's MK-Ultra program, spiked the after-dinner drinks with LSD, without telling anyone. Olson was dosed without his knowledge, without his consent. And when he came home to his wife, she said he wasn't the same. He kept saying he'd made a terrible mistake. He stopped sleeping. He told his supervisor he wanted to quit. You don't quit MK-Ultra. Frank Olson knew things. He had witnessed things at CIA black sites that the agency could never let become public. Interrogations, biological warfare experiments, operations that would have destroyed the CIA if they ever came to light. His son, Eric, later said his father had seen prisoners tortured to death during classified interrogation programs in Europe. He knew too much, and now he wanted out. The CIA sent him to New York, supposedly to see a psychiatrist to help him recover. He was accompanied by a CIA officer named Robert Lashbrook. They checked into a hotel room together on the night of November the 27th. Less than 8 hours later, Frank Olson was dead on the pavement below. Lashbrook's version of events? He was asleep. He heard a crash. He woke up, and Olson was gone. That's it. That's the whole story from the only witness in the room. So, 40 years later, in 1994, Olson's family had the body dug up. A forensic expert from George Washington University did a second autopsy. Frank Olson had blunt force trauma to his skull. Before he went through the window, someone hit him. That's not a fall injury. That's what you look like when someone strikes you. And the cuts from the broken glass, they hadn't bled. Post-mortem wounds, meaning he was already dead, or at minimum unconscious, before he ever hit that window. The New York District Attorney opened a homicide investigation in 1996. It was quietly dropped. No charges, no answers. The man who ordered Frank Olson's LSD dosing, Sidney Gottlieb, was never prosecuted for anything. He died peacefully in 1999. Frank Olson's son Eric has spent his entire life trying to find out what really happened to his father. To this day, the full truth remains classified. With Olson, at least there was a body. At least there was something to investigate. The next one? The evidence was sitting right there in plain sight, and they still buried it for 70 years. July 18th, 2003. A quiet woodland in Oxfordshire, England. The body of Dr. David Kelly is found by a search team. He's lying on his back near a tree. His left wrist has been cut. There are painkillers nearby. The conclusion, reached within hours before any formal investigation, is suicide. But David Kelly was not a man anyone would describe as fragile. He was arguably the world's foremost expert on biological weapons. He had inspected weapons facilities across the Soviet Union, dismantled programs in Iraq, and personally reduced Iraq's head of biological warfare to tears during a quiet, methodical interrogation. He was the kind of man governments called when they needed to know the truth about weapons of mass destruction. And the truth, that's exactly what got him killed. Here's what you need to know. It's 2003. The US and Britain just invaded Iraq. And the entire reason they gave the world for doing it, the whole justification, was that Saddam had weapons of mass destruction ready to go within 45 minutes. David Kelly had actually been inside those facilities. He'd seen what was there, or more accurately, what wasn't. He knew the dossier Blair's government put out had been manipulated, inflated. His words to a BBC journalist were that it had been sexed up, that the intelligence was twisted to sell a war that was already decided before anyone looked at the evidence. He told one reporter, just one, off the record. His own government leaked his name to the press the next day. The morning he disappeared, he sent emails to colleagues. He gave no indication he was in crisis. In one email to a New York Times journalist, he wrote, and I want you to hear this clearly, that there were many dark actors playing games with him, and that he was waiting to see how things developed. Those were his last written words. That afternoon, he told his wife he was going for a walk. He never came back. Here's where the physical evidence makes this impossible to close. The artery that was cut, the ulnar artery, is minor. Multiple surgeons who reviewed the case independently said you basically cannot bleed to death from that cut alone. It's not how the body works. At the scene, there was barely any blood. Paramedics who arrived first said the amount of blood was inconsistent with a death by hemorrhage. No fingerprints were found on the knife, no fingerprints on the pill bottle, no suicide note. And here's perhaps the most damning detail of all. Instead of a proper coroner's inquest, which is legally required in England for any violent or unexplained death, the Blair government bypassed the legal process entirely. They commissioned a private judicial inquiry, and then they ordered the medical records, the autopsy details, and the forensic evidence sealed for 70 years. By the time those files are opened, everyone involved will be dead. A group of 13 specialist doctors filed a formal legal demand for a proper inquest. They were denied. The government said the evidence of suicide was overwhelming. The doctors called it a determined and concerted cover-up. David Kelly had told a colleague months before his death, almost as a throwaway comment, "I will probably be found dead in the woods." At the time, the colleague thought he was worried about retaliation from Iraq. Now nobody's so sure. 2 scientists, 2 inconvenient deaths, both cleaned up fast, both sealed away. But the last case is different, because this one, nobody knows what happened. And that might be the most terrifying part of all. March 27th, 1938, Naples, Italy. A man steps off an overnight boat. He walks through the port. And then, nothing. No body, no note, no witnesses. He's just gone. His name is Ettore Majorana. He's 31 years old. And according to Enrico Fermi, the man who would go on to build the first nuclear reactor and win the Nobel Prize, Majorana wasn't just a good scientist. Fermi put it like this: there are several categories of scientists. Those of the second rank, the first rank. And then there are the geniuses, like Galileo and Newton. He said Majorana was one of those, at 31. Majorana had made contributions to quantum physics that physicists are still building on today. His theoretical work on what's now called the Majorana particle, a subatomic particle that is its own antiparticle, remains one of the most fascinating open questions in physics, with potential applications in quantum computing and, more disturbingly, in weapons development. In early 1938, something changed. Majorana grew anxious, withdrawn. He withdrew all his money from the bank. He packed his passport. He took a night boat to Palermo. He sent 2 letters, one to his family, one to his colleague, suggesting he might end his life. The next day, he sent a telegram saying ignore everything. He was coming back. He was fine. He boarded the return boat to Naples. He arrived. And that's the last confirmed thing anyone ever knew about Ettore Majorana. Mussolini himself, the dictator of Italy, personally wrote on the police file, "I want him found." A national search turned up nothing. Decades later, the Italian government reopened the case after photographs emerged suggesting Majorana had been living in Venezuela in the 1950s under a false name. In 2015, the Italian police officially concluded he had likely been alive in Venezuela between 1955 and 1959. But why did he vanish? That's the question nobody can answer. Some believe he saw exactly where nuclear physics was heading, toward the bomb, and chose to disappear rather than be used as a weapon by any government. He was a devout Catholic, a deeply sensitive man, a physicist who could see the future his own work was building. Others believe he didn't leave voluntarily, that someone, a government, an intelligence agency, we don't know which, needed his knowledge and made sure he could never share it with anyone else. His colleague, Bruno Pontecorvo, who himself later defected to the Soviet Union in a mysterious disappearance of his own, said about Majorana, "Ettore was too smart. If he decided to disappear, don't look for him. You will never find him." 3 people. 3 clean official explanations. One was beaten and thrown through a window. One turned up in the woods with wounds that medically couldn't have killed him, and the paperwork got locked away for 70 years. And one walked off a boat in 1938, and the Italian government was still actively investigating it in 2015. The government called all 3 of them unstable, suicidal, tragic. Make of that what you will. What I can tell you is that these 3 aren't the end of it. There are more, and we're getting into them. If you want to be there for that, you know what to do.